And welcome to part 3 of Scarlet Connections. This time around we're looking at connecting a keyboard or a controller to your computer using the Scarlett or not, as we'll see in a minute with these questions. So Vlad Productions says, one thing I've noticed is that we don't need to necessarily connect the output of it, being the keyboard, into Scarlett. We can just use a USB and put it directly into the computer and make the connection with the free software given by 2i2 Scarlett, which is Ableton Live Lite. I've been doing that and it seems to be working just fine. Oh, good. The problem though is that when you play Ableton and then touch the piano keys, not only you get the original sound from the piano itself, since there's no input audio or output connected, but also the modified sound from the speakers because of Ableton plugins and sound changers for piano. And the speakers sound you get is really kind of weird, in the sense that it's not clear and you hear that sort of bleeping at the end of each note. Another thing I wanted to ask you is what would be the benefits of connecting the piano to the Scarlett interface compared to just letting it be and trying to record plays from the microphone itself, which I have noticed that it isn't that bad. The sound is still good. Thank you for reading all this block, mate. Okay. P.S. Please include all possible explanation on why we would need to use connections that way and pros and cons of them. For example, if I wanted to record my voice and play piano in the same time, what would be the ideal setup to go for connections and stuff and so on? Okay, so that was kind of a mouthful. I'm going to go back to the beginning real quick here. Okay. First thing you noticed is that you can plug in with a USB instead of the audio. Okay, that's very true, because a lot of keyboards are like controllers and you can use them as controllers. So let's see. Earlier in the question thread, because this was the last of a set of questions, you said it was the Casio CTK3200, which is a 61 key portable arranger. Okay, so let's look at specs. 61 keys, polyphony, 48 notes, preset. Okay, so audio inputs: an 1/8 inch and 1x TRS headphones, USB 1X Type B, and MIDI is through USB. Okay, so yeah, you can connect that way. There's this is an old MIDI cable that I have, which it's USB and then MIDI on the other side. But see, if I look at pictures of your Casio, I don't think it has those type of ports. It's probably USB Type B would be like what I have on the key station that I use. So okay, so you can absolutely connect and use MIDI to do the sound instead of using the audio output. And so you say it's kind of weird because you hear both sounds. I would recommend turning the speakers down on the Casio and not, because you don't really need the speaker volume, will not affect the software. I've tried this before. I had a with my keyboard when I had one. I just turn the volume all the way down. The MIDI signals are still going out. You'll still get full volume. So that might lessen your confusion a little bit. And okay, so you say the sounds are kind of weird, not clear, and there's a sort of bleeping at the end of each note. I don't know. I've never had that problem, so I'm not quite sure what's causing that. And also say, okay, considering just recording it from the microphone, Okay. Yeah, you can totally do that. I did that a while back. I would just take a microphone, put it over the speakers on the keyboard and record the sound there. And if you get a good, clean sound, you know, it's fine. You don't have to feel that you have to record this certain way. So that's totally possible. Let's see what else. The connecting. Okay, what would be the benefits of connecting? Okay, so the benefits of connecting is that you won't hear any additional noise besides your fingers. I mean, if you record with a microphone over the speakers, that finger noise is kind of good, but if a car goes by outside or somebody knocks on the door, you know, which happens to me all the time, you're going to hear that in the recording, depending on how sensitive your mic is. Yeah, I remember you said you had a condenser. So, connecting. Now, we talked about connecting through the 1/4 inch, and I believe I showed how to connect with a 1/4 inch, but I didn't show into a keyboard because I don't have one anymore. But generally, when you're connecting with a keyboard or stage piano, the headphone out is not always the best connection, because the headphone out jacks are usually stereo in addition to being balanced. So, like, and you want to know, what does that mean? Stereo, it's what makes headphone mixes sound good. Basically, you have a slightly different signal coming in through, this is the right speaker, here's the left. You have a slightly different signal coming in through each one, and that's what makes it sound like it's on both sides of you. The inputs on the Scarlett they're balanced, but they are mono, which means it's kind of like a fused signal. It'll probably be better if I show you, so let me show you real quick. Okay, so what we're looking at right now is a stereo audio file. Okay, so this was recorded using the Scarlett, and one microphone into each balanced connector using the XLR connectors. So as you can hear the vacuuming behind me, let's go ahead and take a listen to this. Okay, so here we have it. This is a wind sound effect from one of my songs here. So, okay. So like I said, in the when I had the headphones on my head, you have your left channel and you have your right channel. Okay, so that's how you're hearing it through both speakers. Now let's shut one off. Okay, so now you're only hearing the right channel. So that's kind of one-sided, right? So let's go ahead and oh, now you're hearing nothing. Okay, let's turn the left back on. All right. Okay, so we got the left, and let's take this back to the beginning, shall we? Just so we can hear. Okay. All right. Okay, and I'm going to alternate them. So we got our left channel, our right channel, both channels. Okay, now there are 3 ways to create stereo. You can create it, as you can see, these are each a little bit different, through volume. So let's take a look at the level meters. See how they're different volumes here? That's one way you can create stereo. Another way you can create stereo is through delay, which means having one of these sides, either the left or the right, slightly ahead of the other one. Not too much, because if it's too much, it'll sound like an echo, kind of like the 1950s. Ha 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 ha. Hello, you know, not like that, not quite like that. You want it to be really tight, low millisecond number. Another way you can create stereo is through EQ. There are different types of EQ, but let's say you wanted to make the left side have a notch in it. And let's see, in order to do this, I need to shrink the bandwidth. Okay. Anyway, let's say you wanted to put a notch right here. So you have this in the left channel, and the right channel is just normal, like this. Okay, so that could create stereo, as your ears are hearing two slightly different sounds and putting them together as one. Okay, so that's stereo. Now, mono. What does mono... yeah, that's okay. I didn't... Oh. Huh? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Well, we'll go ahead and remove that effect. There we go. Okay, so make sure it sounds the same. Yes, it does. So mono, you want to take a look at mono. And the way mono looks is pretty much, that's like this, okay? That's quite a difference from here. Here you can see we have left and right. But mono, there is no left and right. It's just straight up the middle. So here we go. Even when his face we seek, he's the last one we see. Okay, this is from Father at your feet, take me now and teach me to imitate. So as you can see, the level meters even changed, and they were showing one. In fact, those level meters are kind of bothering me. I want them to be... There we go, metering. Gradient. I like the color gradient. There we go. And teach me to imitate. Okay, so enough about the level meters. So what happens when you try to record from the stereo output of a keyboard? Not always, because I just did one system, although that was a mono system, where I used a headphone jack and fed that into a mono connection. It just got louder, but the result was equally unpleasant to what I'm about to describe. So when you're recording a stereo source with a mono input, like you would be if you took your 1/4 inch. If I'm giving too much detail, just bear with me. I'm trying to make sure this is very, very clear. If I were to take from a stereo headphone out and take a balanced cable and plug that in to just one of the inputs on the Scarlett, which is mono, so we're feeding a stereo signal into a mono input, it would be like trying to take this here and push all this information in to this. Can you maybe kind of see a problem there, trying to feed a stereo signal into a mono signal like that? It's either gonna get stuck or something's gonna be missing, which is often what happens. So when I did this on my keyboard, which I used to have, what I noticed was the center channel was missing. You say, what's the center channel? Well, that's generally where your vocals are, and in a lot of sounds like your piano sound, that's what makes you feel like you're sitting right there in the middle of it. So it doesn't show the center channel here, but it's technically there. So let's see here. So, and even in the darkest nights, I know I can trust your guiding hand, Father. Okay, that's stereo. Now, if I come over here, maybe I can find it here. Center channel extract. It's probably in the special effects. Wait, did I just see it there? Here it is. Center channel extractor. Okay. So let's preview this. Take me under your wing, be my wing. Where did I see extension? Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so let's put it to acapella, shall we? My wingman, be my wingman. Okay, discrimination. It's not quite doing what I what I remember it doing. But what it would do is take out, so you can hear my lead vocal in there. Okay, you hear that warbling sound? Let's turn this off. Hear that? Now listen. That's what it was doing when I tried to feed that mono, the stereo signal into the mono. It's just missing something. I've been trying too long. So, and you can imagine if there's a vocal in there, that just, how much fuller that sounds. So that in essence is what happens. You could lose. I won't say you will lose it, but you could lose your center channel if you try to feed the stereo signal into a mono input. Okay, so that raises the question, how do you record a stereo signal? I would probably say a splitter, if you can. I believe this exists somewhere, because there are all kinds of widgets that I haven't had use for, so I haven't really looked for them. But a 1/4 inch TRS 1/4 inch Y splitter, so you can plug two into both inputs of your Scarlett, because that's how you record stereo with a Scarlett, and then the one into the headphone out on your keyboard. Now, a lot of pro keyboards actually have a left and a right out, and so those you would take an individual TRS cable and plug that in, 1/4 inch TRS, and plug into the two outputs on the keyboard and the two inputs on the Scarlett, and there you have your stereo sound. If you want to plug into only one input on the Scarlett and still be able to hear to record your voice with a microphone, you would choose the left out, which is sometimes also designated as mono, and you will record your audio that way. That's one way of doing it. But if your keyboard doesn't have those connections, and I looked at the Casio, and I'm not seeing those types of connections on it. It looks like it has only one headphone out, which is pretty much like my arranger that I had. So yeah, I would say a splitter. And again, the advantage of recording direct in is you don't get any of the noise in the room, interruptions, phone rings, whatever, air conditioning unit kicks in. It won't disturb the recording, unless of course you're also recording vocals with your condenser microphone, and then you get both of those. You would still get the air conditioning in. So, oh man, no internet. Okay. So it actually shows you a little diagram on the back of the Scarlett 2i2 box. It's here's the box. So what it shows you is that, I don't know if you can see the two dotted lines coming from the stage piano, and then one goes into this input and one goes into the other combo jack, and that is how you get stereo audio. And that's how that works. So to show you on the physical piece of gear, you would take your TRS 1/4 inch, like we showed last time. You would plug it in right here. And then you would go ahead and plug another one into here, but right now we have a microphone, which is how you're hearing me, which is why it's flashing. So we won't do that, but normally if you were going to record stereo, you would go ahead and plug in another one of these in there, and that's how that would work. Okay, so now hopefully you know the difference between stereo and mono and kind of how that works. So, and the difference between plugging in direct and being recorded with a microphone if you have speakers on your keyboard. If you have just like a controller like I have over here, which you can't see, it's out of frame, then it's not an issue. You're always direct in, and you can look at that. I am not really sure, like I said, about the what sound, the bleeping sound at the end of each note. I'm gonna have to test that and find out. And let's see, the last part of wanting to record your voice and do that. I think I'll tackle that in another video probably next week. But I do have another question that's kind of related to connection, so I want to answer that one real quick. Jonathan says, hey dude, I might be getting this because I'll be getting a sub later on. The connection method I plan to do is output to sub, then output to speakers and interface to my PC. Also, is this good for listening to music, gaming, and movies? Not going to do any mixing, but might record simple covers. Also, right now I'm using the Rocket 5 and using RCA cables, RCA cables to my PC, and they are really noisy. Will getting this and using the balance port fix the noise issue? The noise buzzing gets the worst when I play a game though. Will it fix the buzzing? I don't know. It should. It really should. And is the Scarlett good for listening to music? Yes, I will say I ran through what I call our test tracks, which is music that I use to test the speakers, and I was using this one track and I played it through because what I use are these Logitech Z623 speakers, and they have 3 inputs. So I'm running right now. In fact, I have it running, getting sound from the Scarlett and from the computer, and it does have RCA in, which is pretty clean, but there's still a little bit of extra noise in it, as opposed to going through the Scarlett. It's a little bit more noticeable on my laptop because well, at least the sound quality was more noticeable when going through it. I wasn't using RCA that time. It was 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter TRS, and the test track sounded all right, but it was a little more high end. When I switched the computer's sound source to the Scarlett, that just got fatter. It just got more rich. There's more depth. The bass was room shaking. Can use that. Earth shaking. Yeah, that sounds a little better. So you will get a sound quality increase if you're running your computer audio through the Scarlett instead of your onboard audio. Okay, so the wording was a little bit tricky for me here. So you output to the sub, then output to speakers and interface to my PC. So I'm guessing you're probably going to go the way monitors usually work anyway. So I'm guessing you're plugging the Scarlett into the computer, and then let's see, if we go to the 2 outputs on the back of the Scarlett, those would go I believe into the sub. Which sub are you using? Is the Rocket 10, I think? Is there 10 inch? That's if you're sticking with KRK. Let's look that up real quick. KRK Rocket. But what I'm imagining is you're going through the you're gonna do those 2 outputs from the Scarlett into the sub, and then the sub has 2 outputs which would then go to the Rocket 5s, and then that's how your sound would work. Yeah, I mean, usually that's the way it works. If I'm wrong, you can let me know. Okay, so that's a Rocket. Okay, and if you use balance, how are you getting RCA into the Rockets, man? I don't know. I guess it's possible with adapters and widgets. So KRK sub woofer. Okay, so we have the 10S and the 8S and the 12S. I'm just going to look at the 10-inch one because I like that size. Let's see what we got on the back. Okay. Oh, there's RCA on the back of the 10-inch. So, yeah, I mean, doing your inputs as I look at it here out of the KRK sub, which I'm assuming you'll use because you have the KRK Rockets. You have your two balanced ins, which would go, like I was saying, to the back of the Scarlett, and then your outs, which would go to your Rocket 5s. And you're interrupting my recording.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so where was it? Okay, yeah. So that would work, and it should clean up the sound issues, the extra noise issues. What else did you say here? You said, okay, the buzzing. Yeah, that should fix the buzzing, and you should get a better listening experience overall. Let me know how it turns out, so I'd be interested. And I think that's it. So yeah, those are basic connections. Next time we'll look at recording your voice and recording your keyboard or your controller at the same time and seeing how that goes.